Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, dear viewer, wherever you happen to be. Been a long time since I last posted a video. Won't go into the wheres and wherefore whys of that. Had to sell what was meant to be my retirement home. Now living in central Victoria, which for you who don't know, Australia, down the bottom, just north of Tas, across Bass Strait, but below New South Wales. Almost a case of Back to the Future when I first started collecting miniatures and trying to do miniature Napoleonics and miniature gaming. I was in country Victoria, although at that stage in a place called Traralgon in the Latrobe Valley, which is more to the east, but 2 hours from Melbourne. Now I'm in central Victoria. So look, just to show that I haven't given up completely, although, the old health situation and the lumps are continuing to spread, etc. But we press on, trying to find suitable figures through eBay or manufacturers that can reasonably match, and ploughing on through technical problems. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to put this video or some pictures up on YouTube, but we'll give it a crack. But anyway, what you're looking at here is my efforts with ye old Austrians, and hopefully if this video works, we'll do something shortly with ye old Russians. If you've been unfortunate enough to have been watching any of my channel, you'll know that the French, the British and their allies largely done. The Spanish, although of course is any collection really ever complete? But anyway, since moving to central Victoria in about a month and a half, I've gone nuts with the trying to get these things finished. I'm not getting any younger, so it's time to pull the old finger out and get stuck in. What I found is I'm far less fussy now with the painting. I used to try and do all sorts of things like the buttons on the, see, I'm getting old, my mind's gone blank, the gaiters. I used to try and paint those on and all that sort of stuff. Now, if I forget, well, tough cheese. I can always come back, I guess, and do them later. So anyway, what we're looking at here is the Austrian army, mostly, of course, second-gen minifigs, with the odd chariot miniatures, I think they were called, thrown in, seem to match. Third-generation minifig cavalry I find aren't too bad. Wouldn't necessarily try and mix them in the same unit as a second-gen minifig cav. Sometimes they mix okay, other times not so much. As I've mentioned a million times before, third-generation minifigs tend to be way too tall, and their bayonets and their muskets now, which are probably actually more accurate, much longer, and they do tend to tower over their second-gen cousins. Plus, of course, third minifigs now have gone to good old caliber books, which I recall one YouTuber saying is where all the old rangers go to die. But anyway, never used to like Essex miniatures, but I found with their Spanish, anyway, at least they match the minifig quite well. Again, wouldn't necessarily mix them in the same unit, But yeah, and in fact, I'd better get on and order the few things I need left from Essex before they disappear. Again, off another YouTube channel, I heard they were at Salute, but their stand wasn't actually being swarmed by patrons. So, yeah, better get off my you-know-what and order what I need. Anyway, a bit of a flyover. Get ready for the sickness. Although, actually, before we do that, let's go up the other end of the table. What I've tried to do with all the armies is include some allies so that just to break the monotony of the particular army. So those of you eagle-eyed will go, hang on a minute, these are Bavarians and these are Württembergers. I think they're actually very early Württembergers. I think on the old second-gen catalogue they were described as 1806 or pre-1806 Württembergers. As you can imagine, I'm not too fussy about which second-gen minifigs I use. There's no such thing as, let's separate, within reason, but if something's available, I just grab it and use it because, of course, second gen haven't been produced now for close to 30 years as far as I'm aware. Oh, bent flagpole. Oh, dear. So with the Austrian army, to break up the monotony a bit, a few Württembergers, some Confederation of the Rhine, a couple of Bavarian units there, sort of South German Catholic is my understanding. The Prussians will have Westphalians and Saxons in their French uniforms. But again, just to break up the monotony. And plus also, particularly with the Prussians, of course, my understanding is their uniform shortage was so chronic that it wasn't unusual, even in 1815, for the Saxon and Westphalian units to still be in their old French uniforms. A couple of things left to finish. Now, I've got some Bavarian light artillery here. Basically, 2 figures is light, 3 figures is medium. And then over the back here, with the grenadiers, the 4 figure, that represents heavy artillery. But yeah, so I've got some medium Austrian artillery there. Oh, sorry about that. What I've got here, of course, the megalomaniac in me says, oh, well, what if I want to put the Bavarians with the French to fight the Austrians, which they often did? Well, of course, I've got to have a replacement horse artillery unit for the Bavarians. Although, of course, my understanding is that the Austrians, they called them horse artillery, but they weren't true horse artillery. They were more mobile, but from what I've read, as opposed to having the gunners on their own separate horses, they actually rode on the limber. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And who knows, as I pointed out earlier, my books and research is 40 years old, so that's probably been contradicted since then. But basically what I'm aiming for is to have armies of roughly 5 corps, if I can call it that. I'm trying to base things so that I can play Glory is Fleeting, which is very popular down in Melbourne. Now that is, in a sense, Field of Glory Napoleonic version 3. There were a few things in Field of Glory version 2 that I wasn't real keen on. And apparently I'm not the only one, and they've been cleaned up and put into Glory is Fleeting, which, as I say, is really Field of Glory 3. The only thing I'm a bit hesitant to get too involved in that scene is that glory is fleeting, like the earlier version of Field of Glory. It's really designed for tournaments. Gives a good game, but I'm a bit wary of. I'm not interested in competition gaming. For me, watching or playing a game of any sort of historical warfare, for me, it's a bit like going to the theatre. So I want to see the armies behave and act as they did in real life, within reason. Again, the old saying, if you really want realism in a war game, have the understanding that the loser is shot. But yeah, no, I guess I'm getting old and cranky, and I don't have time for power gamers these days. People that want to bend the rules just so they can win, or build an army list that is, super duper. No. Anyway, I'm waffling. Like I said, I'm old. So anyway, just a quick overview. So this would be the Allied contingent. As I say, with the Prussians, they'll have Westphalians and Saxons. With the French, they've got Polish and Italians. The Austrians, of course, Württembergers and Bavarians. The Brits will either have Portuguese and a few Spanish, or they will have Dutch Belgians, Nassau, and what's the other mob? Hanoverians. Anyway, so there's your Allied corps. Then sort of your heavy cavalry, 2 of cuirassiers, 1 of dragoons. Your Hungarian infantry. There are only 3 groups of infantry. I'd like a 4th. And of course, you must have hussars with your Hungarian command group. These, along with all my other commanders, will eventually get put onto round bases. We're getting a bit wobbly there, Ian. I haven't quite got round to deciding on how I'm going to do it. I've got 6 centimetre round bases for the commanders and 4 centimetre round bases for the sub-commanders. Whether that represents a general and then the corps commanders, or whether it represents a GDA2. What is it? A divisional commander and then the whatever commanders. Over the back here, now the Austrians didn't have, hang on, shaky cam. The Austrians didn't have an Imperial Guard as such, so their grenadiers take that spot for me. Now that bag at the back there, that's eventually going to become a 3rd 4-stand unit of grenadiers. They'll be German, so they'll be, as you can see from the blue pants, 1 Hungarian, 2 German. Now with the Guard cavalry, I'm not too sure what to do with that. Now you can, well, again, Austrians didn't have Guard, but this is their equivalent. It's the Kaiser's cuirassiers and the Kaiser's hussars. Now, in the Austrian army, the hussars are considered battle cavalry. In Blucher, often you might only be allowed one stand, because in Blucher each unit represents a whole brigade. So sometimes in Blucher, in the army lists at the back, you might only be allowed 1 unit of Guard or elite cavalry. Of course, playing games like General d'Armée, Chateau 2, or perhaps even to some extent games like Et Sans Resultat, where each individual stand represents a battalion or a regiment, etc. Not too sure whether to add another 4 stands so that you have like an elite heavy or Guard heavy and elite light or Guard light. The lances, as you can see, some of them are bent over time. Some I've gone into and I've actually replaced them with steel pins. Once I've actually completed the collection, one of my gunner jobs for all the armies is go back to each Lancer unit, cut out the old soft metal lances and replace them with steel pins. Over there, I think they're meant to be Chevaleggers, and then I think that's actually my attempt at some foreign unit. I forget exactly which. Some South German unit. Anyway, moving on down, and then you've got this great big unit of 6 here with 2 lots of Jagers. What I've done with all the armies is I've made sure they've got at least 8 stands of sort of light infantry, Jagers, specialists, like so. Now, my original thinking, I'll just pop this down again, shaky cam, remember, Hollywood, I ain't. Now, in games like, in General D'Armée, for example, you can simply, for each unit, they produce a skirmish stand. So these can be representative of skirmishes. Games like Blucher, I just say, well, no, that's, if they have a light brigade, I'll just use these to show as such. For games like Glorious Fleeting, how they represent light units, and I'll borrow some Hungarians here, which I realise isn't quite kosher. But how you represent a light unit in Glorious Fleeting is the front stands are in this sort of open order skirmishy type situation, and the back stand is regular, where they're sort of the massed ranks. So that in Glorious Fleeting, that's just your regular unit. Glorious Fleeting, as with a lot of games, of course, units can be 4 stands or 6 stands or whatever. I've simply tried to concentrate on 4 stands per unit, because I'm tired of rebasing, thinking about how to cope with all these different rule sets. I've sort of got old and cranky enough now that I'm going to base things the way I want, and it's up to the rule sets to modify to me, not the other way around. Which I think, in fairness, I think a lot of rules are attempting these days anyway. As I said, I'm not even sure this is even going to make YouTube with my old, outdated, befuddled technical know-how. I'm just using my little old Galaxy A13 phone. It works. It's when I get to the computer that I have the problem, because, of course, Windows Movie Maker is no longer supported, doesn't work. And I'm no dropkick, no dummy, but technical things tend to completely baffle me. So trying to work out how to use a new video program most of the time is beyond me. Anyway, look, hope everyone is well, or as well as can be. I'm hanging in there. I ain't dead yet. Although probably a few people might be wishing I was. Anyway, take care, everyone, and talk to you again soon. Bye.